You thought everything was fine. She still kissed you goodnight, still answered your texts, but what you didn't see was the slow fade happening behind her smile. While you were showing up, she was checking out, and when she finally said it was over, you weren't just heartbroken, you were blindsided. But what if I told you this wasn't random, that there's a quiet, brutal pattern behind it, and it has a name? It's called Banksying, and it's what happens when someone leaves you emotionally long before they walk away physically. In this video, we're going to expose the truth behind this trend, the warning signs most men miss, and what to do if you're starting to feel that same invisible distance right now. Like this video, subscribe to Stoic Station, and let's get into it, because once you understand this, you'll never be caught off guard again. Now, let's dive in. Part Y. What is Banksying? The breakup. Before the breakup. Banksying isn't loud. It doesn't come crashing down like an argument or a slammed door. It doesn't leave a mess you can point at and say, "This is where it ended." No, Banksying dissolves the relationship from the inside, so slowly, so quietly, that by the time you notice something is wrong, you're already standing in the ruins. It starts with a shift so subtle you almost miss it. She's still there. She still replies to your texts. She still kisses you goodnight. But something's changed, and you can feel it. The energy is off. Her presence feels like a performance. On the surface, she's your girlfriend, but underneath, she's already left the room. Emotionally, she's disengaged. Spiritually, she's drifting, and the part that hurts the most, she's still playing her role just enough to make you question your instincts. Unlike ghosting, which hits like a slap, clear, harsh, and undeniable, Banksying is a slow bleed. Ghosting gives you an ending. Banksying gives you an illusion. She lets you believe you're still in it, when in truth, she's already rewriting her story, and you're no longer a central character in it. At first, you try to make sense of it. You tell yourself maybe she's tired, maybe it's stress, maybe it's just a phase. You try to fix it, thinking you can win her back with consistency, presence, effort. But her eyes no longer soften when they meet yours. Her laughter doesn't reach the same places it once did. Something sacred between you is fading, and you don't know how to stop it, because she won't admit it's happening. And then the most dangerous thing starts to happen. You begin to lose your grip on reality, not because you're weak, but because she's making the exit look like stability. You're caught in a psychological limbo, where nothing feels wrong enough to leave, but everything feels wrong enough to hurt. She's still showing up, but not as herself, not as the woman who once chose you with her whole heart. She's now a shadow of that connection, keeping up appearances while withdrawing piece by piece. Banksying is the kind of ending that doesn't feel like an ending at all until it's far too late. There are no arguments, no final tears, no dramatic farewell. There's just a slow unraveling while you're still showing up, still trying, still hoping. It's a disappearing act disguised as commitment. And that's what makes it so devastating. You're holding the door open for someone who already slipped out the back long ago. Part 2. The signs she's emotionally checked out. Sign number 1. She's there, but she's not present. There's a moment when you realize she's still physically beside you, but everything that once made her presence feel alive, her energy, her attention, her emotion, has quietly disappeared. She's sitting next to you on the couch, but her eyes are locked on her phone. You talk, and she nods, but you know she's not really listening. Her responses are delayed, generic, automatic, just enough to maintain the illusion of engagement, but too empty to feel real. What used to be effortless connection now feels like forced coexistence. You remember a time when you didn't have to speak for her to feel you, when your presence alone lit something in her. There was a natural pull between you, an invisible current that made even silence feel full. But now that silence is heavy, not peaceful, not intimate, just hollow. You sense her pulling away, but there's no confrontation, no conversation, just space growing between your words and her responses. She laughs, but it's rehearsed. She kisses you, but it's out of habit, not desire. She shows up, but it feels more like a role she's still playing than a relationship she's still invested in. And the worst part is that her physical presence tricks your mind into thinking everything should still feel normal, yet it doesn't. Because presence isn't about proximity, it's about attention, about emotional reciprocity, about truly being with someone even in the quietest moments. And right now, the woman who used to see you is sitting in front of you like a stranger wearing her face. You begin to wonder if you're imagining things, if maybe you're just being too sensitive. But your body knows, your gut knows. The warmth that once lived in the small things, the way she looked at you, reached for you, sat beside you in stillness, has faded. And in its place is a quiet void that no one talks about, but you feel it every single day. She's there, but she's no longer with you. And the man you used to be in that space, the one who felt chosen, wanted, deeply seen, is now sitting alone in the shadow of a connection that no longer reaches him. Sign number 2, her affection feels mechanical. There was a time when her touch spoke louder than words, when a kiss wasn't just routine, it was a pull, a presence, a fire. But now something's shifted. She still kisses you, yes, but it feels rehearsed, brief, empty. She leans in out of obligation, not instinct. Her lips touch yours, but the warmth never follows. There's no hunger, no pause afterward, no eyes searching yours like before. When she hugs you, it's polite, safe, almost sterile, like the kind of embrace you'd give a distant friend you haven't seen in years. Not the man you once clung to in laughter, in longing, in love. You can feel her arms go around you, but not into you. There's a difference, and your heart knows it. Intimacy, once vibrant, now drifts into silence. Sex doesn't disappear all at once. It fades, slowly, subtly. At first it's just less frequent. Then it starts feeling like a chore. She says she's tired, stressed, not in the mood. You nod, you understand, you stop asking. But inside, you know something else is missing. Because when a woman truly desires you, you don't have to beg for it. You don't have to schedule it. You don't have to convince yourself that maybe tonight will feel different. The truth is, desire doesn't vanish overnight. It dies when emotional closeness is no longer safe for her. When she starts detaching from you not just in words, but in body. And you feel it not just during the moments of rejection, but in the silence between them. In the way she turns her back to sleep. In the way she doesn't linger in bed. In the way she no longer reaches for you at all. And the most haunting part isn't the lack of touch. It's how well she hides behind gestures that used to mean something. You start to realize, just because she still shows up in the physical space doesn't mean she's still connected in the emotional one. Affection has become a mask, a placeholder. And every time you pretend it still means what it used to, a part of you disappears with it. Because deep down you know, real connection never makes you second-guess whether you're wanted. When love is alive, you feel it in her skin, her eyes, her breath. And when it's not, you feel it too, especially in the spaces she used to fill without even trying. Sign number 3. Conversations are surface level. There was a time when your conversations felt like home. You'd stay up late talking about everything, your fears, your dreams, the small, strange moments of life that only made sense when you shared them with her. Those talks weren't just words, they were connection. They were the foundation you built together, the space where you both felt seen, heard, and chosen. But now, those conversations have disappeared. What's left are exchanges that feel more like transactions than intimacy. Did you walk the dog? What do you want for dinner? Don't forget we have that thing tomorrow. Functional, efficient, emotionless. It's not that you stop talking, it's that you stop truly communicating. You start to realize she no longer asks how your day really was. She no longer wonders what's been weighing on your heart. There's no curiosity, no interest, no spark behind the dialogue. The emotional depth that once tethered you together has been replaced by a checklist of shared responsibilities. She isn't asking to understand you anymore. She's asking because she has to, because you live under the same roof, because it keeps things from falling apart too obviously. And that shift is more painful than silence, because silence you can name. But this is the illusion of connection, the going through the motions version of what used to be real. It tricks you into thinking maybe everything's still okay, until you feel how empty you are afterward. She's no longer building anything with you. She's simply maintaining what's already there, just enough to avoid questions. And you feel it, in the lack of eye contact, in the way she changes the subject when anything gets remotely vulnerable, in the way she never follows up on the things that matter to you. You try to bring something deeper into the conversation, maybe a memory, a hope, something real, and it falls flat. Not because it didn't matter, but because she no longer wants to enter that space with you. She's not invested in growing anything new between you. She's managing the logistics of what already exists until she finds the moment she can leave without disruption. And that's what makes these surface-level conversations so disorienting. They make you feel like you're still in the relationship, when in truth, you're already in the aftermath. She hasn't said the words yet, but emotionally she's already moved on. You just haven't caught up to it. Not because you can't see it, but because it hurts too much to admit it out loud. Sign number 4. She stops planning the future. There was a time when talking about the future with her felt exciting, natural even, whether it was a trip you both dreamed of taking, a place you wanted to move to, or just the thought of spending the holidays together. Those conversations gave your relationship a shared direction. You weren't just living day by day, you were building something, together. But now, when you bring up those same plans, something shifts. She says, "Let's see," or "We'll figure it out," and then quickly steers the conversation somewhere safer, somewhere less committed. The excitement that once lit up her face when you spoke about what was coming next is gone. Not dimmed, gone. And even though she hasn't said the words, you feel it deep in your gut. She's no longer placing herself in the same story with you. She's still playing her part in the present, but in her mind, she's already begun rewriting the ending without you in it. She stops making plans, not because there's no time, but because there's no desire. And slowly you realize it's not about logistics anymore, it's about detachment. The future is no longer a shared space. It's a quiet signpost pointing to where her heart is headed, away. Sign number 5. She says everything's fine, but your gut knows otherwise. You notice the change in her mood, in her tone, in the way her body moves around you. So you ask, gently at first, "Is everything okay?" She smiles, tells you she's just tired, stressed from work, a little distracted lately, and you want so badly to believe her because the alternative is terrifying, because admitting something's wrong means facing the possibility that you're already losing her, but your body knows better. You can't sleep like you used to. You catch yourself overthinking things that used to feel simple. You feel anxious in her silence, confused by her stillness. And worse, you begin to doubt yourself, not because you're irrational, but because her words don't match her behavior. And that's where the danger lies. When a woman starts emotionally withdrawing without ever clearly saying so, it's not your mind that panics first. It's your intuition. And over time, instead of trusting that feeling, you begin to silence it. You make excuses for the lack of affection. You tell yourself you're overreacting, that she's just going through something. But deep down, you feel the gap widening even as she insists everything is fine. You hear the hollow tone behind her reassurances, and that slow erosion of trust in your own perception, that's what begins to break you. Stop gaslighting yourself. If your gut is telling you something is wrong, listen. Because what's missing isn't always loud. Sometimes what hurts the most is the absence of truth in a room full of polite lies. She may not be screaming. She may still say all the right things, but the silence between her words, it's where the truth lives. And if you sit with it long enough, you'll hear it clearly. She's slipping away, and you already feel it, whether she admits it or not. Sign number 6. Her joy is no longer linked to you. There was a time when you were part of her light, when she lit up in your presence, when her laughter came easily in your company, and the smallest shared moment felt like enough. But now, the glow has shifted. She still smiles, but not at you. She still laughs, but only when she's holding her phone, lost in conversations you're no longer part of. You watch her come alive when she's with her friends, or when she's getting ready to go out. But the sparkle she once saved for you never shows up when you're alone together. She still dresses up, but it's no longer for the two of you. It's not for the dinner you planned, or the night in you hoped might rekindle something. It's for someone else, or maybe just for herself, now that she's already started to detach. Her joy no longer intersects with your presence. It floats around you, bypasses you, and then disappears altogether when you reach for it. And it hits you, slowly but unmistakably. She's still in the picture, but the picture is no longer about you. She's emotionally elsewhere, and all you're left with are echoes of the woman she used to be when she was with you. You see her, but you don't feel her. And nothing stings more than watching someone you love come alive for a world you're no longer part of. Sign number 7. You're the only one trying. It starts with small shifts. You're the one texting first, the one checking in, the one planning the weekend, the one carrying every conversation that used to feel effortless. And at first, you tell yourself you're just being thoughtful, that maybe she's busy, that love goes through seasons, so you try harder, you become more patient, more attentive, more forgiving. But over time, that patience becomes silence, that attentiveness turns into overfunctioning, and that forgiveness starts to wear down your sense of self. You begin to realize the truth. This relationship isn't being shared anymore. You're the one keeping it alive. You're the one maintaining the illusion. You're the only one showing up emotionally, and somehow, despite all of that, she looks at you like you stopped trying. That's the part that cuts the deepest. Somehow, her emotional exit becomes your failure. She convinces herself that you weren't enough, even as you were giving everything, and it leaves you questioning yourself. What did I miss? What more could I have done? But the truth is painful and simple. She left long ago. She just didn't have the courage to say it out loud. So instead of facing the discomfort of honesty, she stayed physically present and let you do all the work, until you became exhausted enough for her departure to look justified. When one person pulls away and the other keeps reaching, it creates a slow heartbreak that has no clear beginning or end. But if you're always the one trying, the one fixing, the one hoping while she's emotionally gone, then you're not in a relationship anymore. You're in mourning. Mourning someone who already walked away quietly, long before you realized you were the only one still holding on. Part 3. Why Banksying hurts so deeply. What makes Banksying so uniquely painful isn't just the loss, it's the timeline. When she finally gathers the words, "I need space," or "I don't think this is working," it sounds like the beginning of the end. But for her, it's the end of the end. She's already lived through the grief in private. She's already detached emotionally, rehearsed the goodbye in her mind, mourned the version of the relationship she no longer feels connected to. By the time she speaks it out loud, she's already halfway into her healing. But for you, that moment is impact. It's the collapse. It's the day everything breaks open. You were still invested, still trying to solve what she had already quietly accepted was unsolvable. You were showing up, unaware you were the only one left truly participating. And in an instant, your reality fractures, because what you thought you were holding on to no longer exists. That gap, the emotional delay between her ending and your beginning, is where the sharpest pain lives. You weren't just blindsided by the breakup. You were forced to confront the truth that she had already exited long before the words caught up. And that betrayal of timing, that silent departure while you were still fighting for connection, makes the heartbreak feel more like abandonment than loss. You start to question everything. Did the recent moments of closeness mean anything to her? Was she just pretending? How long had she been gone while you were still holding hope? It's not just that the relationship ended, it's that you now realize you were the only one still trying to keep it alive. And in that chaos of self-doubt, it's easy to think something's wrong with you, that maybe you missed a sign, that you didn't love enough, or worse, that you imagined it all, but you didn't. You're not crazy, you're not weak. You were simply loving someone who stopped loving you out loud. And instead of facing that truth with you, she let the silence speak in her place, leaving you to piece together the wreckage alone. That's what Banksying does. It steals clarity. It drags out the confusion. And when it ends, it doesn't hand you closure. It hands you 1,000 unanswered moments, and the realization that the goodbye didn't happen when she said it. It happened quietly, invisibly, while you were still holding on with both hands. Part 4. What to do if you realize you're being Banksyed. The hardest part about realizing you're being Banksyed is that it doesn't feel like a clean break. It feels like slow erosion. You second-guess yourself because nothing is clearly wrong, yet everything feels off. And when you care deeply about someone, it's easier to rationalize the distance than to face the truth of detachment. You tell yourself she's just tired, that life's been overwhelming, that the tension will pass, but it doesn't. Because this isn't a rough patch, it's a quiet exit. So the first thing you must do is trust your gut. Stop explaining away the coldness in her voice. Stop pretending the lack of affection is just a phase. If you feel like you're the only one holding the connection together, it's not an overreaction, it's awareness. And if that awareness keeps you up at night, it's not because you're needy. It's because something real has shifted and your body knows it before your mind wants to accept it. If you have to convince yourself that her affection still means something, or if you find yourself settling for brief moments of attention just to feel close to her, then you're not in a healthy connection. You're surviving off scraps. Don't beg for crumbs of affection. You shrink who you are every time you try to earn love that should have already been mutual. And once you stop gaslighting yourself, you need to find your voice again. Not to accuse, not to corner her, but to speak truth, your truth. Ask plainly, without apology. You feel distant. Are you still emotionally in this with me? It's a question that takes courage, because it forces her to confront what she's been quietly avoiding. But her reaction will tell you more than any conversation you've had in weeks. If she owns it, if she admits that she's been withdrawing, if she's open to rebuilding, then at least you're working with honesty. But if she deflects, downplays, gets defensive, or worse, flips it around and makes you feel dramatic for even asking, that's not confusion. That's confirmation. She's already checked out. She just hasn't said it yet. When you realize you're being Banksyed, the truth hurts. But facing it frees you, because pretending everything is fine only keeps you stuck in a dynamic that's draining the life out of you. If you keep waiting for her to say what you already feel, you risk staying in something that's ended in everything but name. So speak the truth, not to keep her, but to stop losing yourself. And there comes a point when the silence between you says more than any words could. When she tells you she's not sure about where she stands, that she needs space, or just feels off lately, that's not your cue to work harder. It's your invitation to reclaim your dignity. You don't wait around hoping she'll suddenly see your worth again. That's not love. That's self-abandonment. The moment you start chasing her attention, trying to reawaken desire in someone who has already emotionally withdrawn, you begin to lose yourself. You disappear piece by piece. Your identity starts revolving around whether she still finds you valuable, when in truth your value was never meant to be negotiated by her hesitation. You are not meant to audition for someone who once chose you freely. You hold your ground, not because you're trying to prove something, but because self-respect is what anchors you when everything else is slipping away. And if the emotional withdrawal continues, if her indifference turns into detachment, if her silence becomes the norm, if her presence only reminds you of how much you miss the connection that once was, then you have to make a decision, not out of anger, not to punish her, but because you finally realize you can't force someone to stay who already left in spirit. You're not ending something whole, you're acknowledging the ending that already happened, quietly, over time, behind soft smiles and mechanical kisses. You're not giving up. You're simply choosing not to carry a relationship alone. You're choosing to walk away, not because she wasn't once worth it, but because you are. And then comes the most important part. What happens after you walk? You don't run to distraction. You don't numb yourself with noise. You sit with the truth. You reflect. You rebuild. You look back on all the moments you stayed silent to keep the peace, all the times you accepted half presence as enough, and you forgive yourself for them, not because they were mistakes, but because they were the best you knew at the time. You remember what it felt like to be unseen in something that once made you feel alive. And in that memory, you make yourself a promise that you won't trade your peace again for someone else's comfort. Don't wait for closure from someone who couldn't give you honesty. Create it for yourself. Let the silence become your answer. Let the distance speak the truth. And let the man you're becoming be your proof that healing doesn't come from being chosen again, but from choosing yourself without hesitation. Let me say this directly to the men going through it. If any part of this message made your chest tighten, it's not because you're weak. It's because you've been carrying something alone that was never meant to be yours alone. What you've just walked through isn't just about a relationship ending. It's about recognizing the moment when a woman emotionally exits, but forgets to tell you, and the cost of staying after that. This isn't about blaming her. It's about seeing clearly. Seeing the moment when her kisses went hollow, when her words stayed polite, but her presence grew cold, when your efforts became the only thing holding it all together. That's Banksying, the illusion of connection wrapped in the routine of a relationship that already died in her heart. And here's the hard truth most men avoid until it breaks them. The longer you chase what's already gone, the further you drift from yourself. So what do? You stop apologizing for your gut instincts. You stop fighting for clarity from someone who keeps you confused. You stop begging for a place you've already earned, and start standing in the one thing she can't take from you, your dignity. The life lesson here is simple. Don't wait for someone to release you from what they silently walked away from. You don't need her to say it's over for it to be real. You need to say to yourself, this isn't love anymore, and I deserve more than this performance. Walk away, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity, not to punish her, but to protect yourself, because you were never meant to be the only one trying. And healing starts the moment you stop pretending she still is. If this message touched something you've been carrying in silence, take a moment. Breathe. You're not alone. Share your story in the comments below. Your voice matters, and it might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. Like this video, subscribe to Stoic Station, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay grounded, stay strong.